I'd like to talk about wishing you had spent more time with them before they passed. But before we jump into that, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Ghazala at the Heart and Soul Cafe. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're here for the first time, you're very, very welcome. So most of you who watch these videos, and there isn't actually very many that watch the videos, but those of you who do, you will probably know that I very sadly lost my son 4 years and 3 months ago, and I volunteer for a charity where I counsel, support women, befriend women who have experienced child loss also. And you know, something that all my clients say to me at some point, you know, during one of our sessions is, I wish I had spent more time with the person that I've lost, with my child. Sometimes I counsel women who have lost a parent, who have lost a sibling, but most of the time it's a mother who has lost a child. And she does say, I wish I'd spent more time. Now, the thing is that it's, in hindsight, it's all quite natural. First thing is that it's actually quite natural. It's a natural response. It's a part of grieving, is the guilt, is the, I wish I had. And it's that bargaining stage of grief where you say, if only I had done this, if only, I wish I had, I wish, and you could go on and on and on and on. And I know it's a natural part of grieving, but I think there's a line. I'm not going to say a fine line, really, but there is a line, I think, between something that is quite a natural response, which is, I wish I'd spent more time with my loved one before they passed, and really beating yourself up about it. Now, if we look back, if I sort of talk a little bit about some people's experiences without, disclosing their identity, I'm not going to do that. But I've had women where they've talked about their teenage child. Now, if we look at teenage children, what do they mainly do when they're going through their teenage years? They're very much, keeping themselves to themselves. It's not usually a time of a child's life where they are usually, I'm not saying all the time, but most of the time, it's not usually a part of a time in a child's life where they are the closest to their parents, because it's not always seen as a cool thing, to be spending loads of time with their mum or their dad. They're usually spending quite a lot of time with their friends, or spending a lot of time on social media, or spending time, in the bedrooms on their video games, perhaps, or whatever that is. But it's not such a cool thing to do, to spend time with your parents. Please comment if you think different. And I know there's exceptional cases, but I am generalizing. Okay, so then if you think that, I have a mother who's saying, I wish I'd spent more time with my child, who passed away. And the child was, let's say, 17 when they passed away. It's not something that you would really expect. You wouldn't really expect that child to be spending lots of time with their mother. It's, they sort of, it's those years where they're sort of discovering themselves and wanting to spend time with their friends and, be accepted within their friendship groups, etc., etc. So, they're trying to find their feet, and that's not really going to necessarily happen while, they are, with their, with their parents. It's something that they are probably going to, discover sort of on their own a little bit. So, I do try and bring that to that mother's sort of attention, that how was it before they passed? What were they doing? What was your child doing? Well, yeah, my child was spending quite a lot of time in the bedroom. Yes, and you would expect a 17-year-old to do that. So, I feel that we need to cut ourselves some slack and just be a little bit more gentle with ourselves, because, when it comes to certain situations, when considering the age of that child, it really isn't something that you can force that child to do. Come and spend time with me, come and spend time with me. And again, it's a time, if your children are going through their teens, it's probably a time for yourself where you would be working, earning money, if you are, following a career, and you'd probably be quite busy in your job at that sort of time of your life, I guess, as well. And again, I'm sort of generalizing. By the time they've grown a lot older, you might be, a little bit more, maybe a position where you can take, less hours in working, perhaps. So, it's something that, we can sort of look at. But please don't, beat yourself up about it. And the reason why I made this video is because I get that so much. And I know in situations where you're, it's not a teenager, it might be a parent, and you might think, I wish I'd spent more time. Then, regretting that is not useful. It's not, you're not gaining any sort of, you're not gaining anything from that by, regretting and, being in that mindset about, I wish I had. Just try and think about, if you can, try and think about those positive moments that you did have together. And I'm sure there will be plenty of precious times and moments that you had together and time that you did spend together. Try and focus on that rather than what you didn't have, because we can't change anything. We can't go back, unfortunately. The people that we've lost, and we can't bring them back. But what we can do is, we've got some kind of control on the outcome of our grief and our grief journey. And to help that journey and help healing, it's helpful if we can focus on the positives, those positive times that you did have with that loved one. And I know there's going to be times where you feel, I wish I had. And that's, as I said, that's a normal, natural response to losing someone. But please try not to, dwell in that for too long, because, in the long run, it's always better and more positive to think about all those good times that you did spend and all the time that you did allocate for that person, and you did, and all the good times that you've had, rather than what you haven't had. And I know sometimes we can get into a rut about that, and get into a place where we are focusing on that. But if you sort of step outside of yourself and look in on yourself now and again, and sort of ask yourself, where am I at with this grief? That question might come up, that point might come up, that am I dwelling on all the what ifs and only if, and I wish I had? And if I'm spending a lot of time doing that, am I actually healing? Does this have any kind of purposeful meaning, or does it have any kind of, is it going to lead to anything positive? Probably not. I'm not saying don't think about it. All I'm saying is try and be mindful about how much we might be dwelling in that, because at the end of the day, it is a negative way of thinking. If you can, try and stop yourself and try and think about all the positive times that you did spend together, and cherish those moments. And the more we do that, the better we get at it, and the more we sort of train our brain to think about the positives rather than the what ifs and if only, and which are, ultimately quite negative ways of thinking. I hope the content of this video has been helpful to you, just to sort of stop you in your tracks and just sort of make you think about things, differently. Can sometimes help. Please do share, like, subscribe, comment, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you for watching this one. Until then, look after your hearts and souls.